بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. So moving on with our lessons on the Arabic language. Yesterday we covered the two main sciences which will help you understand the Arabic language. And those two main sciences were Nahw and Sarf. Now for a basic understanding, you have to understand Nahw and Sarf. If you don't understand Nahw and Sarf, it will be impossible to actually understand the Arabic language at a good level. This lesson which we'll cover today, this will cover a third science, which is called Balaghah. Balaghah is a science which is not required necessarily to understand basic Arabic or to understand the meaning or to analyze sentences, but Balagha will help you appreciate the beauty of the language. And bi'idhnillah, towards the end of the 2 year course, we will enter into Balagha in a bit more detail. But this science is special in the sense that it will help you understand the beauty of the language and it'll help you appreciate the beauty of the Qur'an. Now, just to recap, we mentioned to you that the language is like it's like a machine, right? So you have gears. In order for the machine to work, you have to ensure all the gears are of the right shape, the right size, the right form. So that's sarf. Sarf will teach you how to form words. Now, in forming words, we'll just mention this as well. Sarf primarily deals with verbs. We'll cover this later, bi'idhnillah. I'll just preempt it for now. Sarf primarily deals with verbs because generally speaking, when you're forming words by putting them together, when do you form words? When you're taking a verb and you want to put it in a certain tense. If I want to refer to a verb in the past tense, I would add on an ed for instance. Okay, at certain usages. Like for instance, he helped. So to help, right? That's the root word. We say he helped. Notice the ed at the end. That's past tense. If I want to use present tense, I add an ing. He is helping. Notice the ing towards the end. If I want to make it future tense, I add on a will before the word help. I say he will help. Now, these are verbs. Verbs are action words: helping, sitting, standing, eating, drinking, running, etc., etc. These are all action words, and they'll have a tense. We'll cover this later, bi'idhnillah. But sarf primarily teaches you how to form these in the Arabic language, and then they'll also teach you how to form certain nouns. But that we're going to cover later in more detail, bi'idhnillah. Nahw will teach you when you have two words, how do you connect them together according to or based on the rules. So you have rules in every language, right? How do you, for instance, give the meaning of possession? How do you give the meaning of description? How do you convey the meaning of a subject and predicate relationship? These are all rules that will be covered in Nahw. And so obviously you're going to have to apply those rules and get accustomed to those rules. So when you have your gears in the right form, you connect them together. Nahw will teach you how to connect them. Now, just to point on an example we covered yesterday, the your qadid example. So when it came to qadid, it's quite easy to understand why qadid is a surf mistake because you misused the tense of the verb, right? It should be present tense. You don't add on an ed at the end. Okay, so you're caught, or afwan, even if it's past tense, you don't actually add on an ed at the end for the word caught specifically because that's not how English is spoken. That's a surf mistake. But in your, someone might ask, well, wait a minute, is this not a mistake in the form? Because your can be spelled in two different ways. It can be spelled Y-O-U-R, and it can be spelled Y-O-U apostrophe R-E. And nah. So the question is this not a mistake in the form? So why isn't it a surf mistake? So it's true, this is a mistake in the form, but over here, the mistake is because you overlooked a rule in grammar. Grammar teaches you that when you make two words into a single word, you have to add an apostrophe in between. Over here, you're making U and R into a single word. So grammar dictates that this over here, you have to add an apostrophe in between. And this your caught, the your in this structure means you are, as opposed to Y-O-U-R, your, which shows possession. All right. Your book, it shows that the book belongs to you. Your hat, it shows that the hat belongs to you. So this is a mistake in grammar because one form gives the meaning of possession, and grammar will tell you that so and so word gives the meaning of possession, and so word gives the meaning of hyphenation, etc. How to connect words together. This is grammar. This is a grammatical error. Now, as a side point, if you didn't understand that entirely, it's completely fine. All right. As long as you understand the general idea that sarf in the Arabic language teaches you how to make the form and shapes and sizes of words to convey the correct meaning. And Nahw will teach you how to put those words together with the correct ending. And if you've understood the importance of endings in the Arabic language, that is sufficient. That's your cheat code to the Arabic language. The meanings in the Arabic language are hidden within the patterns and endings of words. Now, what is Balagha? This is Sarf. That's Nahw. What is Balagha? Balagha will teach you that when you have multiple structures that are all grammatically correct, because Nahw will tell you that structure A is correct, structure B is correct, structure C is correct. And you'll find a lot of this in Arabic. In Arabic, you can mention the exact same structure or the exact same meaning. You can convey the same meaning in many different ways. Balagha will teach you when you should use each and every single structure. And this is what makes the Qur'an so beautiful. Because the Qur'an, as you're all aware, mentions multiple stories scattered in different surahs, in different verses. And you'll notice when you recite the Qur'an, and when you look into the translation of the Qur'an, each surah will mention similar stories to previous surahs. Naam. But one surah will give more detail. Other surahs will give less detail. A certain surah will only touch on the story, whereas another surah will go into full detail and will explain the story in full. And then certain surahs will mention certain incidents, whereas other surahs will mention other incidents. So why is the Quran changing this from surah to surah, from verse to verse? What's the purpose behind this? That is what's taught to you through Balagha. Why is this, for instance, way of mentioning story A perfect for surah so and so, whereas another method of mentioning the exact same story fits better in line with surah so and so? This all comes down to Balagha. Number one. Number two, and it's important we mention this over here. In English, the meanings you convey in English, many of those meanings are understood from the order. So in the example I gave you yesterday, and I want you to think back to the example I gave you yesterday. We had two examples, right? Let's just take one of them. Waritha, Sulaymanu, Dawuda. Sulaiman alayhi salam inherited Dawood alayhi salatu wassalam. Waritha means to inherit. Sulaiman is the doer. Sulaymanu. Dawuda is the one being inherited. Hence the fatha at the end. All right. In this example over here, in English, we say Sulaiman. I'll just write letters to indicate it. Inherited. All right. Dawood. Sulaiman alayhi salam inherited Dawood alayhi salam. If you take these three words and you happen to change the position of the first name and the last name, and hence you say Dawood inherited Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. What happened? The entire meaning changed. When you say Sulaiman inherited Dawood, Sulaiman is the one who's inheriting. Dawood is being inherited. When you say Dawood inherited Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, Dawood is the heir, and Sulaiman is the one who is being inherited. So the meaning changed entirely. Why? Because you changed the order. So in English, what conveys the meaning is the order. The word that comes first is the doer. The word that comes last is the object. وَقَتَلَ دَاوُودُ جَالُوتَ. Dawood killed Goliath. If you switch Dawood's placement with Goliath, the meaning changes entirely. So in English, what conveys the meaning is the order. Arabic is not like this. Arabic is not like this. This structure over here, now obviously this is the Quran, so we can't change the order of the Quran, of course. But this sentence, from a grammatical perspective, if you change the order of these two words, obviously we don't do this, but if you change the order of these two words, and you said, for instance, Waritha, Dawuda, Sulaymanu, the meaning does not change. In English, the meaning changed. But in Arabic, because the ending is still the same, the meaning will not change. This still means Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam inherited Dawood alayhi salatu wasalam. Alright? Even if you were to say, for instance, Dawudu or Dawuda عفوا ورث Dawuda Sulaymanu. That was your example, right? ورث Dawuda Sulaymanu. Even if you were to say Dawuda ورث Sulaymanu, if the ending is still intact, the meaning is still intact. So Nahw is a science that will teach you, because the ending is correct. I told you the meaning in Arabic is hidden where? Not in the order, it's in the ending. Nahw will teach you that structure A is correct, structure B is correct, and structure C is also correct. But now the question comes, why did the Qur'an choose structure A over structure B and structure C? Balaghah will teach you this. So Nahw teaches you all these are correct structures. They're all valid methods of conveying the same meaning. Balaghah will teach you that this is the perfect structure for this place, in this surah, in this verse. Understood? Let's take a look at another example. And this is conveying the same meaning we just covered right now. That in English, the word order is fixed. Muhammad helped Hamid. In this scenario, who's the doer? Muhammad is the doer. Who is being helped? Naam, who's the object? Hamid. How do we understand this in English? Position. Or not position per se, order, placement. The doer comes first, the object comes last. And for that reason, if I switch Muhammad with Hamid, what happens to the meaning? The meaning also flips around. If you say Hamid helped Muhammad, now that you bring Hamid first, the meaning is switched, and Hamid is the doer, Muhammad is the one who's being helped. He's the object. In Arabic, that's not the case, because the meaning is not conveyed through the word order, rather the meaning is hidden within the endings. So if you say Nasara, what does Nasara mean once again? So this you guys should know, right? Nasara means to help. Okay? Nasrun means to help. We covered this, I believe, yesterday. Muhammadun, Hamidan. Who's the doer over here? Nasara Muhammadun. Muhammad helped Hamidan. Hamid. Hamid is the object. How do we know Muhammad is the doer? Not because it's coming first, because of the ending. How do we know Hamid is the object? Not because it's coming last, because of the ending. And for that exact reason, if I was to say Nasara Hamidan Muhammadun, it still means Muhammad helped Hamid, because the ending is still intact. However, if someone was to say, for instance, Nasara Muhammadan Hamidun, now the meaning is switched. Not because the order changed, but simply on account of the fact that the ending of these words changed. Because the ending changed, the meaning will also change. So Nasara Muhammadun Hamidan meant Muhammad helped Hamid. Whereas Nasara Muhammadan Hamidun would mean that Hamid helped Muhammad. Now you don't have to understand right now what gives the meaning of the doer, what gives the meaning of the object. What you need to understand is the meaning in Arabic is hidden within the last letter. And for that reason, or the haraka to be exact, if you change the haraka, you will be changing the meaning. Oftentimes you will end up changing the meaning, or at certain times, the word or the sentence will be left invalid. It will be an invalid structure. But on account of this fact, because of the fact that the meaning is hidden within the last letter, in Arabic, you can have many different forms and many different ways to say the exact same thing. So Nahw will teach you that you have multiple possibilities. The default possibility is Nasara Muhammadun Hamidan. Muhammad helped Hamid. Muhammadun, doer, Hamidan, object. But you can also say Nasara Hamidan Muhammadun. It also means that Muhammad helped Hamid. The meaning did not change. You can also say Muhammadun Nasara Hamidan. Muhammad helped Hamid. You're also allowed to say Hamidan Nasara Muhammadun. It still means Muhammad helped Hamid. Why? Because the ending is intact. Even though over here, if you look at the structure, if you were to translate this, you were to translate Hamid first in English, because you see like, okay, look, Hamid's coming first in the Arabic language, so I should translate it first in the English language. So you say Hamid helped Muhammad. You've misunderstood the entire meaning. Because in Arabic, the meaning is not conveyed through the order. In Arabic, the meaning is conveyed through the ending. Muhammadun is still ending in the exact same dhamma in which it was ending in the first, second, and third structure. Therefore, Muhammadun is still the doer. Whereas on the other hand, Hamidan is still ending in a fatha. Therefore, he's still the object. So this still means Muhammad helped Hamid. Alright, you can also say Muhammadun Hamid al Nasr. And then Nahw will finally teach you that you're not allowed to say Hamidan Muhammadun Nasara. Nahw will teach you the sixth possibility is incorrect. I'll tell you that there's 5 possibilities that are correct, and there is a sixth possibility that is incorrect. Now, why is this so important? The reason this is important is because, and this is interesting, I want you to look to the right of your screen. Now, if you look towards the right of your screen, you'll see what we call a manuscript. Now, why am I showing you a manuscript in your second or third lesson to the Arabic language? The reason I'm showing you a manuscript in your third lesson to the Arabic language is to help you understand how Arabic looked back in the day. Now, this is a relatively good manuscript. Why am I saying it's a relatively good manuscript? If you zoom in and look carefully, you're going to realize that the harakat are actually written on these words. So you have Alhamdulillah alladhi allam bil qalam wa allam al insana. You know how the remaining of the picture is going to be wa allam al insana ma lam ya'lam. Okay. Well, notice over here that the harakat over there are actually written. So this is quite easy. It's a manuscript, so it's difficult to read, obviously, because you're reading printed Arabic. But earlier scholars and mashayikh, they would refer to manuscripts quite a bit. And even today, the scholarly class is obviously they're well versed in manuscripts. Now, if you look at the structure, in front of you, you have a manuscript and you have the harakat. But earlier on, there's also going to be a lot of other manuscripts where you won't have harakat. So in those manuscripts, you won't have a dhamma on alhamdu. You won't have a tashdid and allama on the lam over there. You won't have these harakat. And then you're also going to come across manuscripts in which, and this is where it gets really interesting. Over here, you have dots. So the qaf has a dot on top of it. All right. The noon has a dot on top of it. For instance, fa has a dot. The kha has a dot. The dal has a dot on top of it. But earlier manuscripts, you're coming across a lot of manuscripts which don't have any dots. And they don't have any harakat. So how do you read the manuscript? That is what Nahw will allow you to do. Now, by the end of 2 years, of course, you're not going to be able to read manuscripts. That's a much longer journey. But if you have a book in front of you, and that book has no harakat, all right, you'll be able to read that book, assuming you can read the letters printed well. You'll be able to easily read that book, bi'idhnillah, and you'll be able to accurately translate that sentence as well. The reason I showed you this manuscript is to show you how vast the Arabic language is. So even though this is a 2-year journey, this is the beginning of your journey. And by the end of this journey, bi'idhnillah, like I mentioned, you will be able to read Arabic, you'll be able to understand the Qur'an, you'll be able to access tafasir, but don't think it's the end of your journey. This is just the beginning of this journey in knowledge, and this journey will not end until a person enters into his grave. So earlier on, Arabic was written without dots and without harakat. So how did they understand? Because they understood Nahw so well. Nahw enabled them to understand that even if I don't have harakat, even if I don't have nuqat, which are dots, I will still be able to accurately read and understand what's being said from this book because my understanding of grammar is so strong. Now, we will, bi'idhnillah, little by little, teach you how to read and how to differentiate correct structures from invalid structures. The purpose right now is simply to understand that Nahw and Mahw, the meaning is hidden within the ending, and Nahw will teach you which structures are valid. Why? That will come later on, bi'idhnillah, when you're ready for it, bi'idhnillah. But now the question comes, if we're allowed to use 6 structures, why would I use one in place of another? If Muhammadun Nasara Hamidan, is the exact same as Hamidan, Nasara Muhammadun. Why would they use one in place of another? Or where would they use one? Where would they use the other? So the answer over here is they're not exactly the same. Each structure gives a certain extra benefit. So for instance, if you want to emphasize that the person who was hitting was Muhammad, over here you would bring Muhammad first. But if you want to understand, if you want to emphasize not the person who was hitting, but you want to emphasize the person who was hit, meaning we're not surprised that Muhammad's hitting. Muhammad always hits someone or helps someone. We're not surprised that Muhammad is helping. Muhammad is known to help others. But we're surprised that it was Hamid that was in need of help. So over here, because I want to emphasize that Hamid was helped, I will bring Hamid first. Whereas if I want to emphasize that it's Muhammad that's helping, I will bring Muhammad first. Even though both structures convey the same meaning in general, these connotations, which are hidden in the background, will always be there. And that is what Balaghah will teach you. Balaghah will teach you if you're in a certain situation, over here you have to emphasize Muhammad, the doer. If you're in another situation, you will have to emphasize Hamid, the object. And therefore, Balaghah will tell you, perhaps on Tuesday, it's better to say Muhammadun Nasara Hamidan, whereas in the exact same scenario on Friday, it will actually be better to say Hamidan Nasara Muhammadun. And to make this very simple and very easy, we're going to give you an easy example. When you're speaking to your parents, the method and the form in which you speak to your parents is not the exact same way in which you speak to your friends. And if it is, that's a big issue. Because the Quran commands us to respect our parents and respect mandates and dictates that we treat our parents different than we treat others. So if you're speaking to your mom, for instance, you're not going to be saying yo. You're not going to be using slang. You're not going to be speaking disrespectfully. Right? And if a person does speak disrespectfully to their mother, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us, this is a great sin. But you won't be speaking the way you speak with your friends, or the way you speak to your brother, or the way you speak to your father even. Because the situation at that moment requires that you speak respectfully, you speak in a polite tone, you speak in a soft tone, right? Mom, can I please borrow some money? Whereas on the other hand, if you're speaking to your friend, the tone becomes very different. And the words used become very different. So you'll notice that each context requires a different structure. And the beauty of the Quran is that for each and every single context, it has the exact structure that's required. And that's something which human beings cannot do. A human being can only do so much in conveying what's in his heart, conveying what he's feeling, conveying his emotions. But the Quran is perfect in capturing the exact moments and the exact emotions of those people, what they were feeling at that time, and then conveying it in language or in words which even they couldn't convey themselves in. This is the beauty of the Quran. And we're going to take one example of this, where we have two prophets, alayhim as-salatu was-salam. Nuh alayhi salam, and Hud alayhi salam. May peace be upon both of them. And the story of these two prophets is mentioned in Surah Al-A'raf. And what's interesting is, you have the story of Nuh, and right after a page, you have the story of Hud alayhi salam. So it's even possible in certain editions, you might have the story of both of them on the same page. In other editions, you'll have the story of Nuh on page 1, and on the exact other page, you'll have the story of Hud alayhi salatu wassalam. And you have two very similar verses. In both of these verses, both these prophets are talking to their nations, and they're conveying to them the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one, and that they're messengers from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Nuh is quoted to say, أُبَلِّغُكُمْ رِسَالَاتِ رَبِّي. I convey to you risalati, the messages, Rabbi, of my Lord. And if you look at Hud alayhi salam, he says the same thing. أُبَلِّغُكُمْ رِسَالَاتِ رَبِّي. I convey to you the messages of my Lord. But then in Nuh's story, the upcoming wording is وَأَنصَحُ لَكُمْ. And I give you sincere advice. وَأَنصَحُ لَكُمْ. Notice this word, keep this in mind. And look at the translation as well. I give you sincere advice. In Hud's story, it's وَأَنَا لَكُمْ نَاصِحٌ. And I am a sincere advisor to you. Now, just think of the English. There's not that much of a difference between I give you sincere advice and I am a sincere advisor to you. And when you look at the sentence or these verses, based on the translation, you won't really understand much. And you might just think to yourself that it's just another way of saying the same thing. But the beauty of the Quran is that it's using the perfect structure for Nuh alayhi salam, and it's using the perfect structure for Hud alayhi salam. Now, why is this the case? The reason this is the case is, and we're going to understand these terminologies in much more detail later on, but just to understand the example right now. Ansahu, all right, in the Arabic language is called the mudari'. You don't have to write this down right now. I'll teach you this later, bi'idhnillah. Mudari' means that this is to make things easy, it's a present tense verb. It is a present tense verb. I am giving you advice. Nasih is not a verb. This is a noun. Right? It's an ism. If you remember what I mentioned to you yesterday, you have root letters, right? So over here, root letters are Nun, Sad, and Ha. If you put it on a specific pattern, you achieve a very specific meaning. So the same root letters, Nun, Sad, and Ha, I put them on the pattern of Nasih. So now it means a sincere advisor. Nasaha means to advise. Nasih is an advisor. If you put in a different pattern, Ansahu, it means I am giving you advice. All right. One pattern, Nasih, is a noun. Okay. I am an advisor. Whereas the second pattern, Ansahu, is an action, a verb. I am advising. Now again, in English, there's no difference, right? It's essentially the same thing. But in Arabic, there's a big difference. Now, keep in mind, same exact root letters. Noon, Sad, and Ha means to give advice. If you say Nasih, it means advisor. If you say Ansahu, I am advising. And you can add this into your list of words. We've covered Nasrun so far. Nasrun. Sa'ala, which means to ask. Fathun, which means to open. And Nasaha, which means to give advice. All right. One. Now, what makes the Arabic language very interesting is that ansahu, like we mentioned, is a verb. And when we use ansahu, the verb conveys a very special notion. And that is the notion of continuity and renewal. Something is happening again and again and again and again. That is what the verb conveys. Whereas the ism, nasih, does not convey continuity and renewal. It indicates strength. The ism indicates firmness. So why did the Qur'an use ansahu for Nuh alayhi salam, whereas the Qur'an used nasih for Hud alayhi salam? The moment you look into the story of these two prophets, you will understand exactly why the Qur'an used ansahu, which indicates renewal and continuity, for Nuh, whereas it used nasih, which indicates strength and power, for Hud alayhi salatu wassalam. The answer to this is the fact that Nuh called his nation for 950 years. فَلَبِثَ فِيهِمْ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ إِلَّا 50 عَامًا. Nuh stayed within his nation for 1,000 years minus 50. Meaning for 950 years, he called his people. Called them day and night. قَالَ رَبِّ إِنِّي دَعَوْتُ قَوْمِي لَيْلًا وَنَهَارًا. O Allah, I called my people laylan, by night, وَنَهَارًا, and by day. فَلَمْ يَزِدْهُمْ دُعَائِي إِلَّا فِرَارًا. Yet despite this, my invitation to them did not increase them except in running away from me. وَإِنِّي كُلَّمَا دَعَوْتُهُمْ. And O Allah, every time I called them, لِتَغْفِرَ لَهُمْ, so that you would forgive them, جَعَلُوا أَصَابِعَهُمْ فِي آذَانِهِمْ. They put their fingers, or they stuck their fingers into their ears. وَاسْتَغْشَوْا ثِيَابَهُمْ. And they used their cloths to cover themselves. They pulled their cloths over their heads. وَأَصَرُّوا. And they became persistent. وَاسْتَكْبَرُوا اسْتِكْبَارًا. And they became very arrogant. ثُمَّ إِنِّي دَعَوْتُهُمْ جِهَارًا. Nuh says, then you, O Allah, I called on them out loud. ثُمَّ إِنِّي أَعْلَنْتُ لَهُم. Or I called them, ثُمَّ إِنِّي أَعْلَنْتُ لَهُم. And I called to them in the open. وَأَسْرَرْتُ لَهُمْ إِسْرَارًا. And I went to them in private. فَقُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ. I said, seek the forgiveness of your Lord. إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا. Nuh alayhi salam, over 950 years, called his nation again and again and again. And he tried conveying the message in every single method possible. He tried conveying the message in every single method possible. So the perfect word to convey this is not a verb that a word that indicates strength. It's a word that indicates continuity. renewal, again and again and again. Now, obviously, there was obviously Nuh Islam was someone who was firm in his belief. But what stands out about the story of Nuh is the fact that over a course of 950 years, again and again and again, he went to his people and he called them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why ansahu, which is a verb, which indicates continuity and renewal, is used for this context. Whereas for Hud alayhi salatu wasalam, what was special about the people of Ad? التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد. The likes of them were never created. وقالوا من أشد منا قوة. They said, who can possibly be stronger than us? They were the strongest of people, and they were known for their strength, and they were known to be tyrants. وإذا بطشتم بطشتم جبارين. When you take over others, you take over them, you destroy them like you're tyrants. You completely eradicate them. This was what the people of Ad were known for. So, the one who is required to stand in front of these people is someone who's extremely strong. Someone who can stand in the face of this. And this requires strength and it requires firmness. What stands out a bit about this story is the firmness and the strength of Hud alayhi salatu wassalam. And that's why the word nasih was used in the context of Hud alayhi salatu wassalam. Again, in English, you will never understand this. But in Arabic, just by changing one word, by changing ansahu lakum to ana lakum nasih, you've conveyed two completely different meanings. And the Arab who understands Balaghah, who understands that even though structure A and structure B are both valid, but structure A conveys a very specific meaning, whereas structure B conveys something far beyond or far different than what structure A is conveying. He will understand exactly how beautiful the Qur'an is. For Nuh alayhi salam, the verb ansahu is used, whereas for Hud alayhi salatu wasalam, the ism, which indicates firmness, which indicates strength, is used. Now these terms, ism, fi'al, mudari, I will cover this later. The point over here is to understand the beauty of the Qur'an. And like I mentioned, this is something which will not be found within translations. And just to explain this even more, I'm going to read a passage from Ibn Ashur. Who is Ibn Ashur? Ibn Ashur is a great mufassir in the recent centuries. He wrote a tafsir titled At-Tahrir wa Tanweer. And bi'idhnillah, towards the end of our course, we'll be taking a lot from this tafsir. He mentions in the beginning of his tafsir, and you'll notice over here, there's no harakat. You will notice over here that there are no harakat. But again, bi'idhnillah, we're going to read this for you correctly, and we'll translate it as well. I'm going to be reading the second paragraph over here. He says, وَمِمَّا يَتْبَعُ هَذَا أَنَّ الْقُرْآنَ. In fact, I'll write the harakat for you as I read. أن القرآن يتصرف في حكاية أقوال المحكي عنهم فيصوغها على ما يقتضيه أسلوب إعجازه لا على الصيغة التي صدرت فيها. This is the beauty of the Quran, is that it takes these stories, it takes these emotions, it takes these feelings, it takes these circumstances, these situations that people are going through, and it takes their words and it words them and it conveys their meaning in a format which is absolutely beautiful, in a format which shows the miraculous nature of the Quran. In a format which shows the miraculous nature of the Quran. لا على الصيغة التي سطرت فيها. Not in the exact same manner these people, not in the exact same manner these people said these words. Not in the exact same manner in which these people conveyed their meanings or conveyed their emotions. فهو إذا حكى أقوال غير عربية صاغ مدلولها في صيغة تبلغ حد الإعجاز بالعربية. When it takes meanings and words that were said in a language other than Arabic, it will take these exact same meanings and it will refine them and convey their meanings in a form which reaches the pinnacle of beauty and the miraculous nature of the Quran in the Arabic language. وإذا حكى أقوال عربية تصرف فيها تصرفا يناسب أسلوب المعبر مثل ما يحكيه عن العرب فإنه لا يلتزم حكاية ألفاظهم بل يحكي حاصل مرادهم. I believe is the upcoming text. When it conveys meanings which were conveyed by the Arabs themselves, it takes the meanings they intended, what's in their hearts, and it conveys them in the most perfect and beautiful manner. And like I mentioned to you, this is the beauty of the Arabic language. And this is something which you will not understand through English, you will not understand through any other language until you actually study Arabic and you see just how special the Quran was. And this is why the Quran was, when it was presented to these people who were masters in the language, they were left speechless and they had nothing to say except that they were left in awe and astonishment at this word. And they knew that this word is not something which can be man-made. It is something that's been revealed from the skies from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. So this is the pinnacle of Balagha. And of course, later on when we cover tafsir bi'idhnillah, we'll be introducing Balagha to you and we'll focus on many beautiful points within the Quranic structure, inshallah, as well as recapping all other sciences you have learned. But Balagha won't be introduced and taught until that time. For now, we're going to focus on Nahw. We will focus on Sarf in order to understand the beauty um, of the Quran. And then later on, bi'idhnillah, we'll introduce Balagha to yourselves through books of tafsir and through a basic book in the science, bi'idhnillah. So in summary, Nahw teaches us which structures are valid. Again, the meaning in Arabic is hidden within patterns and endings. Sarf will teach you patterns. Nahw will teach you endings, how to connect words with the correct endings, i.e., which structures are valid. And Balagha will teach you the perfect time and perfect place for each structure. And you will only be able to appreciate the beauty of the Quran once you understand these sciences. Otherwise, you can read translations. The translations will help you understand what the people of Kahf, the people of the cave, were going through when they left their land and they went to this cave. Translations won't help you understand the struggles which Lut alayhi salam went through when the angels visited him and their guests came to their home and what he was feeling at that time. Translations won't help you understand what Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was going through when he took a stand against his nation who were worshipping idols, and he went and he broke these idols one by one, and then he held these people, or he cornered these people by presenting before them an argument which resulted in they themselves turning to each other and saying, Innakum antum al-zalimun, like, you know you're doing wrong, we are incorrect over here. Despite this, we're going to turn against Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Right? Translations won't help you understand what Yusuf alayhi salam felt when he met his brothers, and his brothers didn't recognize him, but Yusuf alayhi salam recognized them. Translations won't help you understand what Yunus alayhi salatu wasalam felt when he was in the darkness of the ocean. فَنَادَى فِي الظُّلُمَاتِ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. That, oh Allah, I am at fault. I made a mistake. You are free of all and any fault. La ilaha illa ant. There is no one to worship aside from you. There is no God aside from you. Subhanak, you are free from all faults. Inni kuntu min al-zalimin. I was the one who erred. I was the one who made a mistake. And translations, they can convey a general meaning to you. But the emotions Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam felt when he was being consoled and comforted from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. Your Lord has not left you, and He is not unpleased. He is not displeased with you. And the promises He was given to console him, translation won't be able to encompass and capture all of these meanings. This can only be understood and it can only be experienced through the Arabic language. Why? Because the beauty of the Arabic language and the beauty of Balagha is that أن تصل عبارتك كنها ما في قلبك. Your expression and your text reaches the depths of your heart and you convey the meaning you are feeling. And of course, there's no one who understands the hearts better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and no one who can convey these meanings and these feelings and these emotions with the beauty of the Quran. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enable us to embark on this journey, to study the Quran, study the sciences. And up until now, many of the lessons focused on, they were all introductory lessons. From tomorrow, bi'idhnillah, from the upcoming classes, we'll finally be moving into Nahw in more detail, and we'll be covering a map that summarizes the entire Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.